Hi, everybody. This is day 1531. 1531 days since Richard was. Let's see, make sure. Can you hear me? Make sure everything is working because we're adjusting. Okay, looks like I'm on. Okay. Okay, so let's start over. 1,531 days since Richard was premeditatedly murdered on Fort Bliss. It was a code red. It was internal order. Of course, you have General Clem Coward, um, absolutely one of the perpetrators. We know that because of his part in the retaliation, the unjust retaliation against a whistleblower for the criminal trafficking and the corruption, the fraud, waste, and abuse that Richard wanted to be a CID agent. Um, that is confirmed. That he inquired about that in written form, and that dirty agent Marlon Soto knew about it because we had a discussion with him about that. Um, so Richard absolutely knew, what to do to collect evidence, to document it, to turn it in. He was in communication with FBI Houston, with Washington, D.C. He was in communication with IG. The IG were all over the barracks because of Halliday. He was in communication multiple times with Child Protective Services. He turned in um, illicit videos because, of course, they were airdropping illicit videos all in the barracks, which shows the failure of leadership. Um, that Richard was murdered on Fort Bliss shows you a huge failure of leadership. It shows you that Thomas Kane is complicit in this. Kane, at the time, was the director of emergency services. He was in charge of the security of Fort Bliss, and he's the one that said that Richard was a good meal for the coyotes. Um, he also absolutely corroborated that what was happening at the emergency intake center was so bad. Richard said it was so bad. We have now numbers skyrocketing. Of course, they're not perfect numbers, but it's 500,000 now. 500,000 when we started. It was like 85,000. Then it went up to 325,000. Now it's 500,000. Um, from 2021 to 20, uh, well, let's just say 3 years, three and a half years, 500,000 of unaccompanied children. Now, if you're a mother, if you're a father, grandparents, you absolutely know what that is. Children cannot be unaccompanied because children, it takes a deal of care, a great deal of care to keep children healthy and fed and clean, and um, also to discipline. I mean, discipline in a good way, like teaching them manners, teaching them how to eat properly, teaching them how to think of other people, not being violent against each other. Children can get very violent against each other. Um, and so they need someone there to care for them all the time. So to have 500,000 unaccompanied children, and to think that, strangers are going to take care of them, or those traffickers are going to take care of them properly, is just you must have live with your head in the sand or something if you think that's going to happen. It's just not going to happen. And it drained El Paso of child care workers, and but uh, it was reported, and we have it confirmed, that the guards were not even allowed to look in the tents. Um, it was really really awful for them, and of course they brought in adult migrants at the same place. It was really really bad what was going on there, and they were used and abused, and now they're mostly dead. They're mostly dead, and that is what is being reported. That's not me just saying it. That is what over and over and over again what reports from our investigation, but now coming out of Congress, coming out of President Trump's speeches, and he has even better intel than what we do, of course, and so we're just warning people of El Paso of taxpayers' money. We're warning really the Americans, all Americans, and I would think around the whole world this is an international problem because these children are from other countries, ripped from their homes and everything, and being so misused and abused, and now mostly dead. Um, it's so heartbreaking, y'all. It's so hard to report this, but it needs to be reported that that is at taxpayers' expense. That means that we have the power to stop it, right? We have the power because they're doing it in our name. They're doing it with absolutely, the Americans. They're doing it in our name, and they're doing it with our taxpayers' money. And who knows where they put these children, if they put the tactical move storage units like what was exposed in the movie, The Sound of Freedom, that they would put them in these tactical move storage units and ship them and everything. And I don't even know if that's um, why some of the things going on with the longshoremen or whatever. It's just curious to me because things are being shipped. Um, you know, that's very clear. How is that happening? And 500,000 unaccompanied children being trafficked, and that's not including the adults, right? So, how is this all happening, and where are they going? Um, and yeah, so those are questions for that I hope that are being investigated. And our point is that Richard was absolutely warning about it and whistleblowing, and had collected information on that and turned it in because he wouldn't be in communications with all of these authorities unless he did. And we got reports that he did. And we know that they were airdropping these the child corn, right? The child corn. Um, and that Dallas Hart was rushing home to find his child corn, and that Leilani Hart had in possession child corn. And we know that their family, because of the FBI notarized complaint written by Leilani Hart, that her family was engaged in all kinds of um, crimes against children, crimes against decency, uh, all kinds, all kinds. And so, absolutely, was there crime going on that Richard would? Yes, absolutely. So there is a motive for his reporting of whistleblower of trying to protect children. Absolutely. And uh, so he absolutely was a whistleblower. And we know through the generals that, and the CID, that there was audits going on Fort Bliss, all over Fort Bliss, because of weapons. We know that weapons trafficking is has been investigated. We know that for sure. Um, and that there was a huge problem. And we know that that problem was also in the Hart family also. And we know that Nadal Baim is up to no good. We know about his connections with Bradford Bugado, G3, Lieutenant Colonel, 32nd ADCOM. He needs to be stripped. He needs to be arrested for the activities that we allege that he was part of, and just for, being part of covering up the murder of Richard, because we had exposed him and he could have absolutely come clean and he didn't. The same thing with Micah Brown, the um, I think he's first lieutenant or something like that. Um, you know, uh, we I called him up. I didn't mean to call him up. Richard had a phone number in his paperwork, and it was written in his hand. And so I thought, okay, let's call the number up and see where it goes to. And it went to Micah Brown. And Micah Brown, being in his unit, answered me in a very disrespectful way, um, knowing that Richard had been murdered on Fort Bliss. He knew. And he is absolutely part of the criminal group. Him and his husband have been in that group. Um, and so, the criminal group that was harassing us, that was threatening us, that was um, misleading, trying to smear Richard, anything they could to discredit us, to discredit Richard. They have to discredit the whistleblowers, okay? Because they're so criminal that that is what they have to do in order to get away with their sex cult criminal activities that they are involved in. And they're never satisfied. They're never satisfied. Their criminal activity, to go to be able, to do their criminal activity with impunity, and never be held accountable for their debauchery and their treason to the country, to the family. Absolutely treason to the family, in my belief. What they've done is betray the country and family. The main institution, the main institution, period. And so, with their disrespect for the family, he could have come clean and he didn't. Same thing with David Park, the captain, and on and on. There's so many of them, and they're going to be held accountable, because we absolutely have is part of this with Bradford Bugado, with all of them. The it has been broken. The case has been broken, and now, um, with because the case has been broken and they know it, and with our investigation, we have exposed, with Team Find Richard Halliday and others corroborating this, that Bill Hicks, and this is very important because he is supposed to be the prosecutor there in El Paso, which means that he is supposed to identify crime and investigate the crime, document the findings, and then prosecute the crime. That's his job. And he is absolutely, clearly a failure at that. And it's worse. It's worse because he is a usurper. He's a usurper of that office. He is not legally in that office. Everything he does is botched because he is not legally in that office. It's kind of like, um, you know, a pitcher just coming out of the stands and throwing a fastball, and then them counting it. He's not part of the teams. This team is supposed to be up against this team, and all of a sudden this guy just comes out of nowhere and just throws a ball. He's not following the rules. It doesn't matter if he throws it well or not. He is not following the rules and is illegal, and everything he does is illegal. And that's just, you can't have someone come out of the stands and try to be the umpire. There are rules to follow and guidelines, and that's what makes us an orderly society. That's what makes us a country. There is no country without law and order. And uh, Bill Hicks is supposed to be part of that team, um, that government agency that makes sure that we have law and order. And yet, he is not. He is not. He is a usurper. And that's kind of hard to understand. We have the proof, the hard proof. We became part of the SB4 case, with letting everyone know about that, the situation in El Paso, because it had everything to do with the SB4 case. Um, and of course, the chief medical examiner being illegal. We've exposed that. And then what I really want to talk about today, which is the El Paso Criminal Law Magistrate Court. And we had huge breaking news today. It's really breaking news, which was very good news for us because it just confirmed our credibility that since I look back, since December of 2023, I have been saying that Patrick Crucius has autism. And, was told, don't say that. You don't know for sure. And I'm like, I know. I know that he does. And he needs a mental health evaluation. Why haven't they given him a mental health evaluation? And why haven't they put that out in public? Because the judge in the federal case did. Whether you like the federal judge or not, he did put out in the paperwork that Patrick Crucius had a severe mental health condition. Now, he didn't say he's mentally ill. He didn't say he had PTSD, right? That is, a mental illness is very different than a mental condition, a severe mental condition. And so that was corroborating what I had witnessed just watching and looking at pictures of Patrick Crucius. And so I looked into it. I did get corroborating information pretty easily that he was indeed autistic. And so I just started saying it. And that was back in December of 2023. And warning El Pasoans that something was really extra fishy in this Walmart mass shooting case. And, you know, Richard is part of that case because we believe that the Walmart mass shooting was a diversion from what Richard was reporting. That Richard was reporting in 2019, and on August 3rd, 2019, um, it was a diversion, and then of course everything happened in 2020. Um, but so the cases are very intertwined, and this shows you that they're very intertwined because something is very fishy. It doesn't well, just think about Joe Spencer. He's the defense attorney. He never asked the judge once, Judge Madrano, over the case for a mental health evaluation of his client. And you cannot tell me that Joe Spencer, for 5 years, meeting constantly with Patrick Crucius, and maybe he didn't meet constantly with him. I mean, really, it would be nice to know how many times did this defense attorney meet with his client, because it only took me about 5 minutes, and I didn't even get to meet with him face to face, and I'm like, oh, he needs uh, to be evaluated to see what level he is on the spectrum. And now we have this breaking news today where they they're saying, "Oh, it has come out that Patrick Crucius has autism." And this was written by Bob Moore. Like, it's such a surprise to him. And we have the hard evidence that Bob Moore was not happy that I, on my live streams, was saying that Patrick Crucius had autism, because that was the one time he engaged, um, was about the autism. And, and that would be on a live stream, right? On a comment on Find Richard Halliday Facebook page, instead of answering our, 15 plus request to communicate with him, to give him information that he would know about what we know of the Board of Inquiry and the insurance and Richard's death, and his personality, and um, any kind of smears that were against him were absolutely unfounded. Matter of fact, it's just remarkable that a young man, his age, going into the military, withstood the absolute debauchery that's in the barracks on Fort Bliss. What is so crazy going on Fort Bliss, because you hear one after the other saying that they just stay drunk, and of course they have drugs, and they have big piles of drugs everywhere. It's just uh, you know it's just crazy what we heard during that time, and all the weapons, the illegal weapons, the ammunition, the illegal things that they would have, that they were not following the standard operating procedures for the barracks. And even the command sergeant major participated in that with Major General Clem Coward by approving. And this was also done by DES Thomas Kane, because they brought girls in during the COVID, these young girls in, and Thomas Kane had to be involved in that because it is he at the time that would have to give the passes to the girls coming in. And we know that they weren't dressed to be sitting there lounging and playing a game or something, and being 6 feet apart. No, they were absolutely brought in there for illicit reasons. Um, and they would film. Okay, there was a lot of videotaping going on, a lot of videotaping. And this is why, uh, one of the reasons that I gave even to CID is, okay, you have, you're saying this and this and this. Well, give us the evidence. And they never could give us the evidence. They never could show us the evidence. They couldn't even tell us, like Belinda, she would claim different things. And I do believe, because I have evidence of it, that Richard did care for her, right? Care for her. Um, and because he was warning her not to get into the sex cult business, right? Um, After all, she was a young mother, very, very young, wasn't even 18 yet. And, so instead, had to turn her in multiple times to Child Protective Services, um, because it was so out of hand. It was so out of hand. It was so out of hand with the children, y'all. And they were filming it. They were filming it. This child corn, absolutely, and we know this from the Navy now, that they had this leader. I can't remember what the rank is of this leader, senior NCO, for in the Navy. I don't know the Navy so well. So had put up a Skylink um, on the ship to provide, charging the sailors like $1,000 a month so that they could get their child corn, so that they could get their corn. Let's just say that, just that they would get their corn. Um, so it is absolutely crazy. Um, the the failure of leadership, um, everywhere you look, everywhere you look, and so we've had to navigate through that to find the remnant of the institution for the institutional support, and it is just waving in now. We have, um, you know, submitted hundreds of letters to get the institutional support that we have gotten now. And it shouldn't be that you have to do that much work to get the institutional support that we have right now. But that's what you're seeing. You are witnessing um, Sam, no, Joe Spencer, and I was going to say Sam Madrano, the judge, but it's really, and I'm sure he's probably shaking in his boots too right now. But Sam, uh, Joe Spencer, and Bill Hicks, the defense attorney and the usurper prosecutor, announcing that oh yeah, well it's really Spencer, announcing that oh yeah, Patrick Crucius has autism, and so we have absolutely been proven right. Now the question is, and I did a live stream right away, and since then we've been really trying to think about why would they do this right now, because this absolutely, even though they didn't mention our name, they won't mention Richard's name, and but one day they will. um, they just can't, because they're so guilty, and that's why when you say Richard's name you can hear a pin drop. And we saw them shaking. We saw them shaking. We saw them crying. We saw them upset. Um, we heard them. We saw them. We know that what happened to Richard. And of course, it was a code red. Code red is so bad, y'all. That's such a betrayal, such treason, so brutal, so violent. When you have those that you've entrusted to care for your beautiful sons and daughters turn and order the murder because you're trying to protect your corrupt pockets, right? Um, and network and criminal network, because this is absolutely a criminal network, a criminal syndicate, and it's connected to this killing of the FBI agent at the El Paso Independent School District. And we're going to give you all those details very soon, but it's absolutely connected to that. Um, we have been working very hard on those reports. It's also, Richard's case is also connected to the Walmart mass shooting, and why they had Patrick Crucius, um, locked away in isolation for 5 years and didn't tell anybody that he had autism, including severe mental health conditions on top, on top of that. Um, and here he was so clean when he turned himself in, when he surrendered. His shoes were clean, his pants were clean, his shirt was clean. His hands were not bagged. He was not read his Miranda rights, and I think it was, I mean, my opinion, it's probably not right, but I think that Hispanic officer was so shocked that here this young man is, you know, putting his hands up, saying, "Oh yeah, I'm the shooter." I I don't think he was expecting that. Um, so why now? Why now? What changed? I mean, they have Sam Madrano in the pocket. Sam Madrano's willing to give them 2 more years of millions of dollars of just, for doing nothing, just kicking the can. And I'm looking at evidence. Yeah, right, Joe Spencer. You're really looking at evidence. Well, why now? He knew. We know. We have it confirmed that he knew from the beginning that Patrick Crucius had autism. Okay, that was one of our corroborating information, and we knew that he knew, and um, you know, it's just so plain. It doesn't take even someone to tell you that he knew, right? It doesn't even take that, because all you have to do is look 5 minutes and listen 5 minutes to Patrick Crucius, and they all knew. And when they arrested Patrick Crucius, they took him in front of the MAG court, which is the El Paso Criminal Law Magistrate Court, and they arraigned him, they processed him. And this is the same court that put Richard in jail without asking, who the heck is this canine cop in a parking lot doing a traffic stop at midnight without probable cause, right? I mean, they didn't even ask that. And they put Richard in jail. And, so this MAG court, they absolutely knew that Patrick Crucius was not a normal person. Um, that he had a severe mental health condition. And, they arraigned him. They knew that he hadn't been read his Miranda rights. They knew his hands hadn't been bagged. They knew that his shirt and his pants and his shoes were clean. They knew all of this. They knew all of this, and they arraigned him. And they also know that it is illegal to parade a, a defendant, and the public defender also knows this, around wearing chains and orange white striped jail clothes, with a bulletproof vest on that's not even on there properly, to manipulate the thoughts of any kind of future jury. So why now? Why are they coming out now about Patrick Crucius's um, autism? And I think it's a diversion. I think it's a diversion from Bill Hicks being a usurper, from the chief medical examiner being illegal, a diversion from that the entire panel since 2015 on the El Paso Criminal Law Magistrate Court, the entire panel of individuals that are posing as judges and making actions and all of that on that court are absolutely illegal, and it makes them criminal. They're criminals. That's what that's what's happening right now, and I think it's a diversion from those facts. And I think it's the biggest diversion is from Richard's case, because they absolutely know, because of our reports from the last 2 weeks, especially the last week, that Richard's case is broken, because we've connected the dots with the death of an expert witness. I was looking for that word earlier today. The expert witness, the FBI agent that was killed at the El Paso Independent School District property. And with all of that case, and now with the Walmart mass shooting, and of course, I go even beyond that, because that is where our investigation takes us. But I'll wait a little bit to elaborate on. I mean, isn't that crazy enough that Richard's case is intertwined with the Walmart mass shooting? That means with Glennon Oakley Jr., and then also now with the killing of a FBI agent that happens to be an expert witness in the Walmart mass shooting. And I believe he knew some information about Richard, because Richard, we have it confirmed, he knew things about Glendon Oakley's death and about the Walmart mass shooting. So this is on top of the criminal trafficking, on top of the fraud. And there's a lot of fraud, because the I think what has been the most difficult truth to wrap our head around is the want for property, real estate, not just any real estate, but the best real estate. And this battle for real estate and the contracts that the real estate provides, um, it is a very, very big part of this. Prime real estate costs a lot of money. To develop it costs a lot of money. El Paso already has foundations laid. It already has a grid laid. If you didn't know that, you need to just go to Google Earth and look at the grid. There is already a grid and foundation laid. It is an ancient city. There's so much underground. My dad used to always tell me about how much is underground in El Paso, because El Paso is an ancient city. They're not telling us the whole truth about El Paso, and it is prime property, and it has a lot of prime property, because anytime you have the grid laid out for you and a foundation laid out for you, or easy building laid out for you, um, you want that property, right? You want it. You don't want to build on a swamp, or um, uneven ground, or whatever. Um, and then, of course, they have major, beautiful, beautiful property there. And I'm been trying to make that point, because it is really difficult to understand why they would murder a whistleblower soldier. Why wouldn't they just take this kid? Because, Richard was so young during this time. He was 19 and 20. Why didn't they just say, hey, kid, where do you want to go? You want to go to South Korea where your sister is? Or you want to go to Europe where your other sister is, where your family is? where your parents are, because we were there at the time. Um, you know, why, why wouldn't they just send them off, um, and they could have preserved their criminal activity. Yeah, it's just crazy. But that's not what God intended. Um, they absolutely decided to murder Richard after the retaliation didn't work. It didn't take hold. Richard he's just a hero, y'all. He has so much integrity. Um, his name will live forever because of his integrity. They tried to smear him. They tried to make things stick that that would discredit him, but it just didn't happen. And and so I think maybe out of frustration, maybe out of I don't know, maybe retribution for something else. We're being told all kinds of different things, but they decided to go ahead and order his murder, and they did, and the cover up is even just as bad, because um, they dishonored his remains, and they didn't. Yeah, and they try. We believe they tried to profit off of his death. I guess they just felt like they had access. We know that they were in the positions to have access to the records and everything. So I think that will all come out very soon, very very soon. Um, but I think this whole revelation of a little bit of truth um, after them absolutely stealing millions of dollars, because and I call it theft, and maybe it's just my opinion, but they have a duty when they're getting paid all that taxpayers money for honest service, and they're absolutely derelict on that. And so I hope they get charged on that with all the other things that they're going to be charged with. Um, that is what we have thought of, that this was an absolute diversion from um, the accountability that's coming, the wave of accountability. But we're happy to have it because it does give us credibility in the public's eye. And um, we've been called all kinds of things. I've been called all kinds of things. And now people will say, wow, maybe, maybe Richard's mom has a point. Maybe this is a criminal uh, sex cult uh, group that is involved in criminal trafficking and all kinds of fraud and everything. Um, and maybe Richard's case is connected to the Walmart mass shooting, and it is 100%. Bliss Avenue, Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia, this Lalani Hart, and that's we're going to help you understand all of that very in the very very soon. It's all coming out. So I just want to say thank you for following us, and um, this whole thing with CID Howell. My husband was like, don't forget to mention that he's like overall the CID in the Army. I mean, we know we have Director Ford, but it's really CID Howell, and he's dirty, y'all. He has conflicts of interest with the prime murder suspects in our son's case. That is really huge. And they knew it. They knew that he had these conflicts of interest, um, and they're severe. They're really severe. So that really was an eye opener for us on the extent um, and another piece of evidence to use that will hold these murderers accountable. So, and if you're like Micah Brown or David Park or First Sergeant Jay Paulin or First Sergeant Ruggiero or Turgeson, right? Turgeson, that's another. If you're, in any of the unit members, I have them. I should list them off one day. Um, y'all, it's we've broken the case, and I don't know what possessed. It's kind of my realization came with Austin Hawk when Austin Hawk blew, and months later, the CQ plotted and planned with the sergeant that was fired, right? Kicked out because of the criminal activity that he was doing that Austin Hawk reported. And it wasn't just Austin Hawk, it was a group. But Austin Hawk had integrity. And this sergeant was allowed on the base, given access by the CQ to Austin Hawk at midnight, and brutally stabbed over and over and over again Austin Hawk in his barracks room. And it was so bad, y'all. It's such a bad story. I just can't even explain it to you. It is so bad. And not one unit member, not one person in that barracks called 911, called the MPs. Not one. Not a one. And that made me understand what was going on in Richard's case, because they were shaking, y'all. The retaliation is coming from the stars, and not the stars in their course in heaven that are godly, but the treasonous stars that have betrayed us, that the Senate Arms Committee gave to these criminals that, like Major General um, Clem Coward, like Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe, like Major General Eisenhower, now Major General Taylor, also uh, Lieutenant General Donna Martin, General McConville, General Michael Garrett, and there's more, and our our service members are being so played and retaliated against anytime they want to do anything right. And if you want to know where the PTSD is coming from, it is from that. When you can't, it's not from seeing bad things in war. It is dealing with these very corrupt leaders and seeing your own get retaliated against and murdered, and you shaking in your boots, anything, because you know where it came from. You know it came from code internal internal retaliation and murder. And yeah, that was very clear for us, and we have video of it. Remember when I went to that person's house that was screaming out the back yard that he had information about Richard, and when I went to the house, he was just like shaking. He couldn't believe that I would even ask anything, and he was shaking. He was so afraid. Um, so, and we ran into that quite a bit. So, they're they are being they are being tortured mentally, right? There's no esprit de corps, and this is what my dad kept saying. There's no esprit de corps. There's no esprit de corps, and I didn't fully understand what he meant by that and what that would do to our service members that joined, like Asia Graham, that when she joined, and we have a video showing it, and I know this from Richard, they were so excited, thinking, making these plans on serving with honor and being mentored and learning things and making money while they're doing it, and absolutely putting their life on the line gladly, because they knew that that they would be with um, a unit of esprit de corps, that they would have each other's backs. They would have each other's six. They could be all they could be. They could be an army of one. Um, this is what they were told. And what happened? Asia Graham was raped in her barracks. What happened? Richard was murdered on Fort Bliss. What happened? Austin Hawk was murdered in his barracks room. What happened? Um, uh, Smitty was found in the fifth stage of decomposition in his barracks room. What happened? Vanessa Guillen was bludgeoned to death, and worse in the arms room. It started and got worse. And the same thing with Richard. Same thing with Richard. That's why they kept saying we can't have another Vanessa Guillen, because it was another Vanessa Guillen. So the difference with Richard is he was in El Paso. He was at Fort Bliss, and he reported the huge criminal traffic network. And so the ramifications are huge, are just huge, because we have the connections with General Garrett in this whole. It's so bad. It makes you shake. It makes you cry. And it makes you want accountability. And I was so happy for Sunday, St. Michael's and All Angels Day, to hear that accountability puts peace on your face. You don't have to be worried that it is going to affect you negatively mentally. That accountability, justice, brings peace. And just the thought of it brings peace for us. So thank you. We are working very hard to make it happen. And everyone out there knows that is a very difficult thing to do in this world, is to hold these criminals, the actual criminals. And I would say today is a big lesson how, we're saying that Bill Hicks is no good. He's the bottom of the barrel. He should never have been appointed. And then he messed it up. He didn't install properly. Then he tried to cover it up that he didn't install properly by tampering with government documents. It's all there. We have it. We have it in hard evidence. There's no question about it that he's a usurper. And he keeps on pretending, and people let him pretend. They're so criminal. And Joe Spencer is that kind of criminal. He is allowing Bill Hicks to be the criminal because he is a criminal. He is absolutely taking millions of dollars to pretend to defend Patrick Crusius, when all along he never demands a mental health evaluation for him, and knows that he has autism with other things, and absolutely knows that there is a soldier named Glennon Oakley Jr. that heard gunshots in the mall and saw security guards, a group of them in the mall where he heard the gunshots. with M4s. And there's more. So, absolutely, Felix Valenzuela and Joe Spencer, and of course, Justin Underwood, who's part of the Walmart mass shooting illegally, because you can't be an ad litem. And then they even called Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia a witness. She's not a witness. She was in Mexico. She wasn't anywhere near the Walmart. She is a con artist, um and yeah, she just wanted some of that victims fund money. That's what she wanted. And she received tens of thousands of it. Why? Why? And that's when they had to force a duly elected district attorney, Yvonne Rosales, out of that office. And Yvonne Rosales still hasn't come forward. It's pretty disappointing. She's looking very, very weak. Her legacy, I guess she doesn't care about her legacy. And, legacy does not depend on perfect actions in life. It depends on those that really matter, right? Those really, really big decisions. And, I taught a lesson, and it was about Robert the Bruce. And I didn't teach it, I just led it. It was part of the McGuffey's online tutor, and we did some research, and it was about Robert the Bruce, who was the king of Scotland. And he's the original Spider-Man, he's the original Spider-Man. That's what I would always tell my sons, my children, he's the original Spider-Man. If you look at his kilt, a spider emblem was sewn inside his kilt. And he's a steward. So if you're interested in all that, it's super great story. But he is known for betraying Braveheart, right? He's absolutely known for that. But he's also known for the repentance of it, of the repentance of the betrayal of William Wallace, and coming back full force for fighting for the liberty of Scotland and winning it. He is the true Spider-Man. And why? Because he was hiding, watching the wind blow a spider web's uh, uh, work down, right? And the spider would crawl back up and make another spider web. And then the wind would come and blow it down, and the spider would go back up and rebuild the spider web. And he watched it over and over again, and he thought, okay, I need to be like the spider. I need to never give up. And he came back. Think about his situation. He's king of Scotland, and he had just betrayed the greatest freedom fighter for Scotland, William Wallace, with William Wallace's over 6 foot sword. Just William Wallace's sword was 6 foot. Scottish people were very tall. They're like giants, right? Very tall. I think William Wallace's father was way over 7 feet tall. William Wallace was a very tall man. Um, Greatest warrior, right? And Robert the Bruce had to face the people that he had just betrayed and repent and say, I learned from the spider. I'm going to be a spider. I'm coming back. And we're going to fight like hell. We're going to fight like hell, and we're going to win freedom for Scotland. And he did. And he did. And his legacy is that. That's his legacy. He won independence for Scotland. And I'm telling that story for Yvonne Rosales because I know, and everyone else knows, that she's not a perfect person, but she was doing such a great job. That's why they had to remove her, because she was doing her job. She was looking into the distribution of the El Paso Community Foundation funds, how they were giving it out, and the fraud that was alleged. And I believe for a good reason it was alleged. And she was looking into Richard Halliday's case because she absolutely knew that it was connected to the Walmart mass shooting case. And she was getting too close for the criminal group, for that they had to, and we have it in open records, that Bob Moore of El Paso Matters with Bill Hicks and Justin Underwood colluded. They even went on Facebook, in public, that they colluded to remove her with John Briggs. Of course, John Briggs, he had been fired, right? That was another reason why they didn't like her, because she was cleaning out the bad people, right? And John Briggs, if you've been following, you understand he's pretty dirty. So, yeah, she was doing the right thing. And so she's in a better situation than what Robert the Bruce was in. She's facing something better than what Robert the Bruce was facing. She has to come back to her people, El Paso, El Pasoans that voted for her to be the district attorney, to identify crime, to investigate the crime, to document the crime, and to prosecute the crime. And she needs to come back. And if she cares about legacy, some people don't care. They will absolutely make a deal with the devil. And that's what Boleyn did. Boleyn just ruined her whole legacy at a very young age. And can she come back and revert? Oh yeah, it's never too late. She had some great chances there, but she decided to lie, to be a liar, and this was about you know the absolute code red murder of someone that was trying to protect her, to stick up for her. Um, that probably one of the very few people that actually cared for her. And and she'll probably say, but he went to CPS. Yeah, sometimes it's tough. You know, you have to be shaken to reality that morality matters. Morality matters, faith matters, because God is watching. And, if you go to his door and you knock on his door and you say, well, I did pray in your name, he'll just say, I didn't know you. Go away. If you're involved in that kind of debauchery and you're not going to fight for justice in this world of injustice, and that's our job, is to fight for justice in the world of injustice, right? To fight for these children that need to learn justice, because children don't have justice. They need to learn justice, right? They'll grab toys and they'll hit each other and they'll cry because they're thinking about themselves before the others. And they have to learn that there are a set of rules and that there are a set of manners and all of that. That's why unaccompanied children is such a dangerous, dangerous thing. And it really is unloving to the fullest extent. So, um, yeah, it's very, very clear that Yvonne Rosales, if she does care about her legacy, she needs to come back. And it doesn't matter about what I think. You know, I'm not a Democrat, right? I really particularly don't like the Democrat Party, but it doesn't matter. She's the duly elected district attorney. She's still the holdover, and she only has a little bit of time to um, to make her legacy right. Otherwise, she's missing this amazing opportunity that God has given her. And I hope she doesn't botch it. I really don't. Um, and I'm really praying for her. But we'll see. It's her decision if she wants to be a Spider Woman, right? If she wants to come back and fight for El Paso. El Paso needs her. They need a good fighter, and so let's all pray for her. Thank you so much, everyone. Uh, God bless you, and I will be back tomorrow. And this is great news for our credibility. We have been right. We've been right, and we've been warning. And this will be really good for us going forward. Thank you so much. Bye bye.